Ah, what a glorious day it is today. Greetings, everyone. Tekking and Barry back once more. And I wanted to begin this video by asking all of you, the audience, a question. What is, in your opinion, the most revolutionary thing that we have learned about the One Piece world during the Egghead arc? I know. There's a lot of stuff to put on that list. You might need a moment to think about it. I'll go over some of them. I'm going to be dipping into manga spoiler territory here as I list these off, so just be forewarned if you're an anime-only watcher. But I think the first thing we should probably put on that list, honestly, is the reveal of Vegapunk himself. I mean, that's a dude we've been waiting to pop up in the One Piece story for a hot minute, or a decade, or honestly over a decade, so we finally got that. And honestly, Oda went above and beyond there. I mean, he didn't just give us one Vegapunk, we got 7 of the guy. Alright, so that's neat. But also, we have Vegapunk's message in the last chapter, and he's revealing this big thing about the One Piece world, like it's all gonna sink into the ocean. We're learning stuff about the Void Century and Joy Boy, and then a revelation earlier on in the arc that Saul is still alive. That's a big thing that I think caught a lot of people off guard. You know, Jaguar D. Saul, part of Robin's backstory, he's still alive. He's on Elbaf. We just saw him in the last chapter. But then also tying back to Elbaf, we got Kid in Elbaf. We saw Shanks doing stuff for the first time, like ever. And the Giants arriving at Egghead. Stussy's a sexy vampire. Oh, and Kuma's backstory, right? Kuma's freaking tragic backstory. So sad. And then the Gorosei are showing up. And not just one, but all 5 of them. And they can turn into huge yokai monsters. And Luffy's fighting him next to Dory and Bragi. And it's crazy. And did you miss the part where Stussy is a sexy vampire lady? Because I think a lot of people kind of did. Oda, you just can't do that, by the way. Oda, you can't just be like, yeah, there's a big arc, a lot of crazy stuff's going to be going on. By the way, Stussy was a sexy vampire the whole time. Not really that big of a deal. It's not a huge issue. It's like she goes into a vampire, she sucks. Kaku and Lucci, and they collapse and they go to sleep, and then, you know, she kind of like licks their blood, like, so good. And then after that, she's just kind of, I mean, she's still around, but you know, she doesn't really do the vampire thing anymore. So I think a lot of people, like in the last episode when it happened, like I knew it was coming, but at the same time I was like, oh yeah, that's right, Stussy's a vampire. We still don't really know much about that. Like, does she just have a regular like vampire bat zone? Does she have a mythical vampire zone? Because that was in a video game. It could be different, or it could be similar. Or is it something because she was a clone? Can the original Buckingham Stussy, Miss Bucking, can she transform into a vampire? Like, what? Okay, so we'll be talking about that today. Talking about Les Vampires. Yeah, it's been a while. Hi guys, how you doing? Vampire Tekking here. It's been a while. This is also Vampire Barry. Yeah, very different character. Different character. Not the same Barry. He's a vampire, clearly. Okay, so, first of all, I don't know who is in charge of, like, the Stussy scenes in that last episode, right? I don't know who was, like, I'm thinking somebody probably volunteered, like, okay, everybody, this is the episode where Stussy's gonna turn into a vampire, and she's going to bite Kaku and Lucci and knock them out. Who wants to take care of those scenes? Somebody's hand shot up quick, like, I got it, I'll take care of the sexy Stussy scenes. It's like, well, I mean, like, you can make her a little bit sexy, but don't go overboard. Oh, don't worry. I won't. It's just like, yeah, oh, God, yeah, oh, wow, yeah, okay, yeah, geez, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, that went hard. Someone on the staff was thirsty for Stussy. I mean, that's fine. I mean, I'm just saying. It's like, whoa, okay. All right, so... let's go through some of the stuff that Stussy does in that episode, in the scene where she takes out Kaku and Lucci, because it's actually a little different in the anime. They actually add some stuff to it, all right? Which makes me believe it is a mythical zone, okay? So in the video game, Unlimited World Red, Patrick Redfield, the villain, has the Bato Bato no Mi mythical variant model vampire. So it's in the bat fruit family that creates the vampire. It could also be, since we're doing a lot of like human mythical fruits and stuff now with like Luffy and everything, and like Sengoku has the Daibutsu, it's possible it could be human fruit mythical variant model vampire. Like, that's another direction to go. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if like Oda does do that. Like, it's like, well, well, okay, the bat fruit model vampire, that was in the video game. This is the human fruit model vampire, in much the same way that Luffy is the sun god, right? And Sengoku's the Daibutsu, right? Okay. So I'm thinking it's that. In the episode, she had shown something that she didn't have in the manga, and that was like thermal vision. Because in the shot when Kaku is in his awakened giraffe form fighting Zoro, you just see a shot of like, infrared, like body heat sensing or something. And then Stussy appears and like bites him. And the implication was that was her POV, all right? So she has thermal vision, all right? So you can sense body heat, all right? That's pretty interesting. Then she has the ability when she bites somebody, she does suck their blood. Oh, for sure does Stussy suck blood, all right? We got to see that pretty damn definitively in the last episode, right? So she sucks blood, but she also can knock out the person she's biting by, like, it's not just like blood loss. I didn't get that impression. Like, she doesn't drink so much of their blood that they just pass out from that. It's like they get put to sleep with some kind of like venom or something she's injecting into them. Something along those lines, is even able to knock out really strong fighters like Kaku and Lucci. Now, granted, when she went up against Lucci, she took out the Sea Prism lipstick. You all know the Sea Prism lipstick. That's a very common trick in the One Piece world, right? Hiding Sea Prism stone in your lipstick, right? She uses that to kind of like weaken him a bit, and then bites him as she like climbs on the back of him very sensually. Okay, all right. And then bites him, knocks him out, all right? Now, they don't stay out for very long. They stay out long enough for them to put Sea Prism, handcuffs on them. So when they do regain consciousness, they can't transform into their Zoan forms, and they're not much of a threat. I don't know if it's really been shown. I mean, I guess she can fly, right? I think it was shown that she can, like, flutter around with the bat wings and everything. I don't think it was really shown in any grand detail, like how fast she can fly or anything like that. But she has the wings. She can fly. And she also had an ability which, considering we're going along with the vampire vibes, immediately I assumed it was something based on that, and it still might be. So it's the moment when Lucci, after Kaku drops, Lucci's like, oh, you're a traitor, I'm gonna kill you. He goes to Shigan Stussy, and he hits her, but it's like an after image, like her body turns into mist. And I'm like, oh, that's a vampire thing. They tend to turn into mist. Also rats and wolves and what was the other? What was in Castlevania Symphony of the Night? You could turn into a wolf, you could turn into fog or mist, and a bat. Yeah, the bat is the obvious one, right? Okay. So she turns into like mist, and then it's like, oh, it was just my after image, and then she gets the drop on Lucci, and noms down him on. Okay. So that wasn't stated to be a devil fruit ability, though. That was stated to be an element of the Rokushiki technique. That was a Kami-e after image. So it was like a subset of Kami-e. So it was like the paper body technique, right? However, and you could just write it off as that, because that does seem like to fall under the idea of something that Kami-e could do. Kami-e is the whole idea, like your body is bent out of the way so you can kind of dodge certain attacks, like Fukuro used that against Frankie, and that you can also use a version of it for like life return and things like that to like mold your body. Lucci even uses that during the fight with Luffy. He has like a bulky, like big muscular hybrid form, but then he also uses the version of Kami-e life return to make himself more lean and more agile, kind of stuff like that, to give a boost to his dexterity kind of stuff, right? So you could just say it's that and just leave it. However, a lot of the members of Cypher Pole do adapt their Rokushiki techniques to work alongside their devil fruits really well, all right? So you could say that, like, yeah, there is a technique called Kami-e after image, but the way Stussy is utilizing it is kind of like a little different and might be taking it to a whole new level. Because even Lucci was taken off guard by that, okay? Lucci, who knows the Rokushiki techniques very well. In fact, he is a Rokushiki master. He has the Roku Ogon. Not everybody can fire off a Roku Ogon, all right? Lucci can fire off the Roku Ogon, all right? He knows Tekai, Shigan, the Rankyaku, the Tempest Kick ability, Kami-e, he knows all of that stuff, and he was really able to utilize pretty much every technique that the other Cypher Pole 9 agents were able to pull off, so Bluno was able to use, like, Tekai Go, and I believe Lucci could do that, too. He did some stuff that Jabra was able to utilize. He was able to use Life Return, like Kumadori was able to do. Now, granted, Lucci might have been taken a little bit off guard by the fact that Stussy turned into a vampire. He was probably unaware she had that form, and it's like, oh no, Kaku got one-shotted by sexy vampire lady. What's going on here? I don't know, but I'm gonna go kill her. And then like the instincts just take over, the assassin instincts take over, and he goes to stab Stussy, and then she turns into mist, and he's like, wait, what? And then he gets bit. So I have a feeling Lucci, if there is just a normal Kamiye technique that creates an afterimage, like in Dragon Ball or some shit, Lucci's probably aware that that technique exists, right? And maybe even is aware that Stussy could have done something like that, and yet he was still taken off guard by it. So I don't know about this one. Kamiye afterimage, but bolstered if she does have a mythical zone, could do a thing where she could legitimately turn into mist and like reform herself like a little bit away from her. It probably would be a very limited capacity that she could do that. You know, she couldn't turn into mist for like an extended period of time or anything like that, but I don't know about that one. That's looking a little bit fishy to me, all right? So another reason why I'm going along with the idea that it's a mythical vampire, like she actually has vampire abilities, because you could argue, well, it might just be a regular bat. You know, bats can see with echolocation. I mean, thermal vision. Do any bats have thermal vision? We should go back to bat facts. Okay, look, I might do animal facts again. I might. But if I do, I'm going to just do like one episode for each animal, and then we're going to have just 26 of them. I'm not doing like the multiple. We'll like one episode, one letter, and we'll see what happens to that, you know. Negotiations are pending with teching here. I'm vampire teching, clearly. But anyway, but a big reason why I think it is a mythical vampire is because she was cloned from Buckingham Stussy, the original, that was a member of Rox's crew way back in the day. Now, Rox's crew were a team of some of the hardiest, strongest pirates this side of Bikini Bottom, you know, like going into the salty spittoon, all right? They're pretty damn tough. We had Whitebeard, we had Kaido, we had Big Mom, we had Wang Zhi, we had Silver Axe, who was probably badass. Silver Axe had a giant axe. And then we had Rox leading them all, okay? And, you know, out of all of that group, Kaido was like their chore boy, essentially. He was like, yeah, Kaido, go swab the decks. You're just an apprentice pirate, right? So in all that, we had Gloriosa, one of the former empresses of Amazon Lily. We had a lot of really powerful people on that crew. Buckingham Stussy was there too. Now you could say, well, maybe she was the odd one out, you know, just like how Buggy was like the odd one out on Roger's crew. Like every crew has like at least one person that's like, you don't really fit in here, you don't really belong, you're really not that strong. But I don't think that was the case with Stussy on Rox's crew. All right, I think in order, and especially with how discombobulated that crew was and how it's always stated to just be like they were arguing and bickering and like attacking each other constantly. If you want to survive on that crew, you gotta have some means to defend yourself, right? You can't just be a regular pirate with no devil fruit, no hockey, and manage to survive on that crew. You're going to be not only just against the crew itself, but you're going up against, like, the Marines and stuff at, like, God Valley and all that shit, right? You got to have some means to either fight back or defend yourself or avoid getting hurt, you know, and I think having a mythical zone definitely qualifies. So the original Buckingham Stussy, who is the self-proclaimed lover of Whitebeard and mother of Weevil, also probably had this mythical vampire ability. She still does, it's just that she's really old right now, so next time we see her, she might be flying around with little bat wings or something, you know, because that's her power. But when she was cloned by Mads, and they made Stussy, the clone that we see now at Egghead, right, a member of Cypher Pole Zero Stussy, they would have probably also most likely cloned whatever devil fruit she had as well, because devil fruits have been mentioned to affect your DNA. They affect your lineage factor, and so if you clone one, and we saw that with the green blood as too, you can extrapolate green blood from the DNA of a Paramecia, and you can put that into a Seraphim or any clone, and then they can have devil fruit powers too, right? So it stands to reason that if you take a mythical zone user and clone them, and the clone doesn't immediately die, then yeah, they would have the same kind of abilities, all right? So that fits for me. funny. So we're just going to go along with that logic that Stussy is a straight-up vampire. Now, with that being said, what kind of vampire in the One Piece world is a vampire, right? Vampires have been in fiction for a very long time. More often than not, they're usually sexy in those forms of media. Stussy, sexy vampire. We had Alucard from Castlevania, sexy vampire. Alucard from Hellsing, sexy vampire. Dracula from Castlevania, sexy vampire. What is with all these sexy vampires in this fiction? All right, it's like people romanticize vampires or something. Oh yes, be part of the night. Come here, we shall bite you. Vampires. Yes, okay. So there's a lot of different abilities throughout fiction, all right? Some of them are based off the actual myths and folklore from way, way back in the day. Back in a day when vampires were not that sexy. Back when vampires were literally like monsters, you know, like they're all like scaly and like half bat human, you know. They're not like in Twilight or anything like that, like Bella, I sparkle, you know, like nothing like that. No, like actual monsters that will just like rip you to pieces, like feral wild animals kind of shit, right? Somebody will probably still find that sexy, most likely, right? It's the internet. However, but when there's like, you know, traits back then, like the immortality thing, they suck your blood, that stuff kind of carries over till now. But then other stuff like the invention of inviting a vampire into your home, I think that came about way later. That wasn't something back then. Being able to be deterred or in some cases actually killed by like religious symbology and things like that, like holding up a cross or here's some garlic. You know, sometimes it'll actually wipe them out. Sometimes it'll just like deter them from coming close to you. The whole running water thing, you know, there's all these different silver, not just for werewolves, but it also kind of works for vampires. A slew of things that can hurt a vampire and a slew of powers that they have as well. So I just have a list here. This is not inclusive. This is not everything, but let's just go through this list of vampire powers really quick, okay? So we got the immortality thing, the idea that, you know, okay, as long as you keep consuming the blood of the living, you will be not just immortal, but also maintain your eternal youth forever kind of thing, right? And in some works of fiction, it's like the more that a vampire consumes, the younger they become, and if they go a while without consuming blood, they begin to age and become all like zombie-ish and so like decrepit and kind of stuff, right? And they get progressively, you know, sexier as they're like, I'm sucking blood. Yes, okay. So we have the immortality thing. We definitely don't see that from Stussy, because, you know, she was injured. She was hurt by Lucci later. She was attacked. She was clearly wounded. Maybe if she drinks enough blood, maybe she has accelerated healing. The blood, she certainly at least likes the taste of blood. The last episode made that pretty damn clear when she was drinking the blood and she was like, ah, yes, the blood, you know, right? So either she just really likes the taste of blood or it does, maybe she can use it as like an alternate for food. Like it doesn't really accelerate healing or anything like that. It's just that, yeah, I can just subsist off of drinking blood as like my main source of nutrients, right? Could be that, or it could actually heal her. In either case, I don't think she's straight up immortal, right? She can die. Let's see, we have shape-shifting. Well, I mean, the fact that you're a Zoan to begin with kind of lends it to a limited amount of shape-shifting. If she is a human, if it was the human fruit model vampire, then it's a situation kind of like in her full vampire form. Maybe that was the hybrid we saw with just her wings and her fangs coming out. But maybe in her full vampire form, maybe she will become a little bit more monstrous. You know, maybe her skin will get really pale, her eyes will go red, her ears will get like really pointed or something. Maybe her claws or nails will grow out and be like, ah, you know, maybe go like more like Max Shrek, you know, Nosferatu kind of vampire. Maybe that would be her full vampire form, but not shape-shifting in the regard of like Dracula's able to turn into like a swarm of rats or snakes or a wolf or all these different kind of forms that vampires can take in fiction, most notably Dracula from the Bram Stoker novel. He could transform into a bunch of shit, right? Probably nothing like that, but I would imagine she would be able to transform, I don't think into a bat, like I don't think Stussy's going to turn into a little tiny vampire bat and like fly away, but she has the wings, she could fly in that form, and maybe she has another form beyond that that's like really like 100% vampire, you know, something like that, right? Mind reading, doesn't seem to have that ability, or hypnosis. So she doesn't have those, but she does have something similar where she's able to like knock out somebody after biting them, all right? So maybe some kind of venom ability to knock out Kaku and Lucci, and not really like, I hypnotize you, come here, Lucci, because if she could do that, there'd be no need to get close up to Lucci and Kaku and physically bite them, unless she just really wanted to drink their blood. And also, maybe she does have something like a hypnosis kind of ability to, like, beguile people. However, it might not have worked on Kaku and Lucci. Maybe it only works if, like, you have time to, like, actually lure them in or something. It wouldn't work on people that are really strong. Like, Lucci has armament hockey and observation hockey, so, you know, maybe it could be a thing where it's like a dark, foggy night in the city, and there's a guy kind of like walking home. He's a little bit stumbly. And then Stussy could use like, come here. And then it's like, you can see the like hypnotism happening with like the brain. And it's, whoa, okay, sexy vampire lady, all right. Maybe it could work then. But in the case with Lucci Kaku, it wasn't going to happen in the thick of battle, okay? Flight, yeah, she has flight. The mist thing, if you want to say the Kamiye ability was, you know, augmented by the fruit and she could turn into mist a little bit, maybe. Healing, she did get stabbed by Lucci, and then she was able to heal enough to the point where she was able to operate the Frontier Dome, although she is still injured. I don't think there was anything like that. I mean, once again, though, she maybe didn't drink a lot of blood in the intermediate. She had like Chopper was there, so Chopper could treat her and then heal her up a little bit and stuff like that, and maybe that's why she was up and running. Or maybe it's because, like, yeah, maybe she did heal herself because of her abilities. Aura perception. Now, in the way that vampires in fiction usually have this, it's like, I can sense your soul. You know, it's kind of like observation hockey in that regard. In the episode, the way we saw it was like infrared, okay? So not exactly in the same vein, but something similar. Like, and in the case with One Piece, because we do have observation hockey, we could say that, oh yeah, Stussy has normal observation, but because she's a vampire, that observation gets augmented, so it's like thermal vision, all right? Not something that any normal person could unlock with just their observation hockey, but observation plus devil fruit leads to a few different combinations, as it were, right? We have this is something that's not really specific. It can be a bunch of things. I even kind of already touched upon it with the augmented healing. But vampires get power by drinking blood. Now, that could be eternal youth, immortality, augmented healing, or it could be like a strength buff. Like, I am physically weak. I'm all shriveled up. I have no muscles. You know, bite somebody, you get their blood, but also their life force, which the two are like closely connected to, because, you know, if you lose a lot of blood, you do tend to faint and eventually die. Blood is life force in a way, right? So you, like, the vampire drinks blood and then gets like, oh, I am now super buff. I can fight you, you know, crack, you know, like, oh, boom, you know, that kind of shit, right? Didn't really get to see that with Stussy in any way of, like, her muscles actually getting bigger or anything like that when she consumed Kaku and Lucci's blood, but who knows, maybe it does give it a little bit of, like, a pep in her step, as it were, when she does consume blood. That's when she's at her strongest. And then lastly, I wrote down here that magic. So a lot of vampires in general, like in Castlevania, like Dracula in Castlevania, can just do magic, you know, like summon, like, giant magma balls and teleport and things like that. We didn't see Stussy do anything. Now, in Unlimited World Red, with Patrick Redfield and his Devil Fruit, his stuff is, he does have flight. He has some cloaking shadow ability that he can kind of do. He has a teleportation ability. It's a video game, so it's like, I'm a vampire. I can teleport around the battlefield. It's, you know. And he also has the ability, which I find is infinitely lamer, and I feel like, yeah, Oda, look, maybe Oda doesn't want to take every single idea from a video game and put it into One Piece, yada, yada, yada. I understand. But Patrick Redfield was kind of a shitty example of a vampire devil fruit because he didn't even drink blood. He drinks your life force, like literally your life energy. Like, he does bite you. He can also use his claws to, like, dig into you. but he doesn't suck your blood. He just, I will drain your life energy to make you age. And so in the video game, he turns Luffy into like an old man and he can barely fight or anything, which is, sorry, it's vampires drink blood. If you have a vampire that can't drink blood, that's kind of a shitty vampire, all right? So here we have Stussy. She drinks blood, damn it, okay? So I could see Oda being like, look, I want to use a vampire in the manga. Yeah, you used one in the video games. I don't care. One Piece tackles pretty much every single trope across fiction. You want time travel, it's in One Piece. You want kaiju attacks, it's in One Piece. You want Power Rangers, they're in One Piece, right? You want anything you want that's in pretty much any work of fiction, it's in One Piece, right? Okay? Vampires. That's in One Piece, right? And they're gonna be good vampires, damn it. So let me know down below in the comments if you think Stussy could implement any of these other powers we went through. Maybe she does have a form she could go into to implement shapeshifting. Maybe if she does have like a full like Nosferatu kind of vampire form, she could turn into, you know, a swarm of rats, or she could like hypnotize people like genuinely. Why didn't she use it during the fight? Well, maybe for one thing, she doesn't like going into that form. Maybe it is like a monstrous form that she despises. Maybe it gives her way more of like a bloodlust, like she can't control herself if she goes full vampire. And Zoro was there, so maybe it's like, oh, if I go full vampire, maybe I'll lose myself and I'll attack Zoro, and that's not what I was, you know, that's not helping Vegapunk, right? By the way, Zoro was there, by the way, when all of this stuff was happening in the background, okay? Like, Zoro is fighting Kaku, giant awakened giraffe, sudden sexy vampire lady, and Zoro's like, oh, okay, and then Lucci gets bit and everything, and she's like, ah, so lovely, and then Zoro's just there like, what? Just what? Okay, number one, lady, that did not need to be that gratuitous, all right? If you could have done that, I mean, I'm all right, yeah, you're a vampire lady, sure, fine, but did you really need to do all of the sexy stuff and just like, I guess. I guess, and Zoro's like, all right, whatever, it dealt with the problem, I guess I can't complain, right, there it is, right? I don't think Stussy's gonna die. I mean, that's kind of something, a little bit of something that's been teed up, when she was having her conversation with Kaku, like, Kaku's like, oh, I guess they left you behind to die as well, right? And Stussy's like, no, you know, somebody needs to stay behind to activate or deactivate the Frontier Dome so they can actually get away. That is my job, I'm going to do that. A lot of people have brought up, like, couldn't Robin make a clone of herself to pull the lever? Couldn't they have figured out, like, they're the Straw Hat Pirates, you have Usopp there, nobody could figure out any way to like pull a switch to disengage the Frontier Dome? This has to be like a death mission for Stussy. Stussy's gonna make it out of Egghead, guys. Don't worry about it, all right? She's gonna stick around for a little while. I really don't think Oda's like, by the way, she's a vampire. Oh, she's dead. Well, what are you gonna do, right? She's prepared to die, and I think that's the overall message Oda is trying to say about her character. Like, she is somebody that kind of struggled with her own humanity for a while because she was a clone, and it's like, I'm not a real person, you know? And Vegapunk has to keep reminding her, like, no, you are a real person, all right? You aren't just a copy of Buckingham Stussy. You are your own person. You have your own opinions and thoughts and morality and everything on things. You're separate from her. Yeah, you might have been made from the same material, but you still have your humanity, as it were. It's almost like Vegapunk is saying, like, you still have your own soul and things like that. And there's so much more to explore with Stussy. So yeah, she's not dying here, right? There's no other mechanism in the giant future lab that they can program to lower it. It has to be Stussy. They'll figure out something. Don't worry about it. Stussy will get out of there and journey with the Straw Hats for a bit. Might not be all the way to the end of the Grand Line or anything, but it'll be fun. Maybe she'll stick around when they get to Elbaf, and then at Elbaf she'll stay behind, and you know, that's maybe where like Edison and Lilith will hang out too with Saul, and they'll continue Vegapunk's research, and Stussy could be a bodyguard. Yeah, something like that, sure. And maybe she will get involved in the final battle. Who knows? But anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. This has been Vampire Teching alongside Vampire Barry, signing out. Ooh. End screen.